Hello, folks. So I just want to quickly talk through the answers to the classwork assignment. Before watching this video, you should have done a couple of things. You should have read Salkind Chapter 1. You should have watched the Chapter 1 lesson, the PowerPoint presentation with my audio. And you also should have attempted the classwork by yourself so far. If you've done all of that, now here I am to give a verbal explanation of the classwork answers. So you'll see I always post a document that has the classwork answers right on them. And then I'll also post my verbal explanation, which is what this is, for the classwork answers. So we can go ahead and look at these together. So the first part of the classwork assignment is asking you to identify whether or not the given problem would require inferential statistics or descriptive statistics. So this first one says a scientist wants to know how much bacteria in each gallon of water in the Schuylkill River. Remember, when determining descriptive versus inferential, the first question to always ask yourself is it feasible or possible or likely to be able to gather data on everything that we want to study as part of that research question? Here, everything we want to study is each gallon of water in the Schuylkill River. Is it feasible to get data on every single gallon of water in the entire river? No, it's not. Of course not, right? So if your answer to that question is no, that means it's going to be inferential statistics, because you need to take a sample to make an estimate about then, or draw a conclusion or inference about the entire population. So in order to answer this research question, we would sample gallons of water from different places in the Schuylkill River, measure the amount of bacteria in each of those samples, and use those samples to make an inference about the population that we want to study, the whole river. So here we would say that it's inferential statistics, because we can't study everything, every gallon of water in the whole river. The second one, a meteorologist wants to calculate the average temperature during the month of March in Philadelphia. So this could go either way. If you say that this is descriptive, you have to argue that we have data on, for example, the average temperature in the month of March for the past 200 years, right? So if you answer the question of, is it feasible or possible to have or collect data on everything that we're interested in, if you say, yeah, we have 200 years, that's enough to be able to say, what's the average for the month of March, then it would be descriptive. If, however, you say, we don't have data since the beginning of time on the average temperature, then you could argue inferential. So I would accept either descriptive or inferential for this, depending on how you word the explanation, depending on how you word the why part. This third one then, a police sergeant wants to know the average number of overtime hours worked by the 25 officers in his unit. Is it feasible or likely to have data on the number of overtime hours for all 25 of those officers? Yes, this is something a police sergeant should have access to. So we would use descriptive statistics. We wouldn't need to take a sample, so it wouldn't be inferential. Okay, so I hope that's helpful for practicing descriptive and inferential statistics. 2 now is transitioning to practicing the scales of measurement for different variables. And remember, for this, always, always, always write out your explanations using the exact wording that I provide you. So I even gave it as an extra refresher here that's right on the classwork sheet. But for example, when you're doing your homework assignments and other homework assignments, always, always, always just use the same wording. Okay, so first one, eye color. Is that nominal, ordinal, or interval? We have to ask yourself first, is it mutually exclusive categories? Yes. Either you have blue eyes or green eyes. I mean, sure, people have different colored eyes, yes, but don't overthink this. So they're mutually exclusive categories. And then the next thing to ask yourself, can you rank order those categories in some logical order, right? If I gave one person a list of blue, green, brown, hazel, whatever, and somebody else that same list, would everybody list them in the same order? And for eye color, we wouldn't, right? Anything that's a color, there's no logical rank order to them. If they can't be rank ordered, that means we know that it's nominal, right? That it's nominal is mutually exclusive categories, but you can't rank order them. For age, now we're thinking about, are they mutually exclusive categories? Yes, either you're 18 or you're 25. Can we rank those categories in some logical order? Yes, right? That you can go from low numbers to high numbers to low numbers, right? That they go in a set order. And then the third part is, can you quantify or measure the distance between categories? And for somebody's age, we absolutely can, right? We can say the person who's 25 is 7 years older than the person who's 18. If you can measure or quantify the categories, then we know that it's interval. All right, moving on to school year, and school year defined as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Here, we know that they're mutually exclusive categories, right? You're either a freshman or you're a sophomore, etc. Can we rank these in some logical order? Yes, right? Start with freshman up to senior. Nobody would give the order as like sophomore, junior, first year, senior, right? That would be out of order. There's some logical ranking order to them. But can we quantify or measure the distance between categories? No, right? Because this isn't saying we don't always know. Somebody who's a freshman could be 2 or 3 years away from being a junior, not necessarily just 2, right? Depending on how many credits you have and where you are in the process, right? So anytime that there's a variable that lists in some rank order, that the categories are in some logical order, but the categories, the possible answers or responses are not a numeric value, they're not a number, then that should tip you off that it's ordinal, not interval. If instead this one for school year was number of years spent in college, right? And people's answers were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then that would be interval, because then we can appropriately quantify or measure the distance between categories because it's a numeric value. So the kind of, helpful tip here is if it's a numeric value, that should tip you off that it's going to be interval. Next one is the neighborhood you live in. This one is nominal because they're mutually exclusive categories, right? Either you live in South Philly or North Philly, but we can't rank order them, right? If we give somebody a list of all Philly neighborhoods, they're not going to automatically go into some logical order. So that's what makes it nominal and not ordinal. SAT score, this one is interval. Again, anytime there's a numeric value, that should tip you off that it's interval. These are mutually exclusive categories. Either you got a 1200 on your SAT or a 1500. We can rank those categories in some order, right? The high to low, and we can quantify or measure the distance between categories. All right, number 3 is, in your own words, define the terms data and data point. So I regurgitate for you here what's in the lesson outlines, but the data point, remember, is singular and data are plural. So an individual piece of data is a data point, and a group of all data points are data or a data set. So if you're thinking about just one singular piece of information, that's a data point. If you're thinking about multiple pieces of information, a compilation of data points, that's data or a data set. A little practice here now, thinking about some of this terminology. What's an example of data? So for example, if you said all of the students' information on any of the variables, that would be data. What's an example of a data point? Just one student's information on one of the variables would be a data point. And then, lots of different examples you could have picked. If you're unsure about any of these and you want to run them by me, say, here's what I had for a nominal or an ordinal or interval, please send me an email and do that, and I'm happy to do a spot check on those. But these are some examples of ones that I gave here. Remember, for nominal, it's something that is mutually exclusive categories, but you can't rank order. Ordinal is something that it's mutually exclusive categories, but there is some logical order, but we can't quantify the distance between categories. And then interval is we can mutually exclusive categories can rank order and can quantify the distance between categories, right? So for number of pets, the person who has 5 pets has 3 more pets than the person who has 2 pets. All right, and then question number 5 is explain whether the following are examples of descriptive or inferential statistics and why. So a little extra practice on the descriptive and inferential here. This one says a nutritionist wants to know whether a diet program can help future clients drop weight. We know that it would be impossible to have data on future clients, right? So if we're asking ourselves of is it possible or feasible to collect data on everything we want to study in this situation, future clients, we know that's not possible. And so we'd have to use a sample, which means it would be inferential. This next one then is a university dean wants to know the average number of years students at our university take to graduate. Is it possible for a dean to have information on the number of years of students are there for all students? Yes, that's information she or he should have. So then it would be descriptive because this is information they should have access to. Okay, so now I hope that you feel confident in this material. If there's things that you have questions about or you want more practice on, send me an email. Also, let me know by email if you would want to have a live class session at 11 on either Wednesday or Friday. We could certainly set that up if you want some more time to be asking questions in a live format or do practice problems together in a live format. Always happy to do that. Just send me an email to let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.